When you think of the Great Pyramid of Giza, what comes to mind? Probably just this perfect, timeless wonder, right? But the story of how it got built? Wow, it's way more incredible than you might think. It's this epic saga of ambition, some pretty catastrophic failures, and just relentless innovation. And it was all driven by one pharaoh who basically had to learn everything the hard way. So let's get into it. So, who taught the world how to build pyramids? Your first thought is probably Pharaoh Khufu, right? The guy who built the Great Pyramid. And yeah, you're not wrong, but here's the thing. He didn't invent the blueprint. He didn't have to figure out all the massive engineering problems from scratch. The real question is, who taught his builders how to pull off that kind of perfection? Who was the real pioneer here? Well, it turns out it's not who you think. The real genius, the true innovator, was actually his father, Sneferu. This guy founded Egypt's super powerful fourth dynasty, and he became absolutely obsessed with building the perfect pyramid. And that obsession, it literally changed the face of the earth. But as we're about to see, his journey was anything but a straight line. Okay, so to really get what Sneferu was up against, you have to look at what came before him. See, pyramids weren't just fancy tombs. For the Egyptians, they were resurrection machines, these massive stairways to the heavens. But for the grand vision Sneferu had in mind, the old design just wasn't going to cut it. Before Sneferu, the big thing was Djoser's Step Pyramid. It's basically a giant staircase pointing north, trying to align with those eternal circumpolar stars. But Sneferu, he had a whole different idea, and it was tied to a different god, the sun god, Ra, who traveled across the sky from east to west every day. So he needed a new symbol, a perfectly smooth pyramid that looked like the sun's rays shining down. I mean, this wasn't just a small architectural tweak. It was a total religious and engineering revolution. So Sneferu didn't just decide to build one pyramid. Oh no. He basically launched the world's first massive research and development program, building these full-scale architectural prototypes. And like any really ambitious experiment, the first attempts were, well, they were pretty disastrous. You can see his early tests, like this small pyramid at Sila, already showed what he was aiming for. Archaeologists found the very first angled casing stones there, which is a huge hint that he was going for that smooth-sided design. But his first monumental attempt, his first real shot at the title, was at a place called Midam. This was supposed to be his masterpiece, the world's very first true pyramid. But it wasn't just a failure. It was a catastrophe. The evidence suggests the whole thing actually collapsed during Sneferu's reign. I mean, can you imagine? The design was just fatally flawed. They built its outer layers on sand, not solid bedrock. So with all that immense weight and that super steep angle, it was just too much. The whole structure violently shed its casing, leaving behind that ruined core we see today. His first great attempt literally ended in a pile of rubble. But Sneferu wasn't about to give up. He moved his entire operation to a new site, Dashur, and just started all over again. But you can tell the ghost of that Midam disaster was haunting his architects, because this second attempt, well, it would become one of the most famous and strangest pyramids ever built. So they started construction at this really daring 54-degree angle, even steeper than the one that failed at Medium. But then, partway through, with this thing already towering over the desert, the builders made a sudden, super drastic change. They just pivoted. They slashed the angle to a much safer 43 degrees, and that's what gives the pyramid its unique, unforgettable bent shape. So why the sudden change of plans? I mean, what happened? All the signs point to a full-blown crisis. The foundation was already showing signs of instability. Deep inside, the chambers were actually cracking under the strain. It got so bad they had to bring in these massive cedar beams, imported all the way from Lebanon, just to brace the shifting walls. It was a desperate, mid-project scramble to stop another medium-style collapse. And there's a really fascinating side effect of that steep, flawed design. The bent pyramid is the only major pyramid in Egypt that still has most of its original polished limestone casing. And why is that? Well, because those slick, steep sides made it way too dangerous for stone robbers in later centuries to climb up and steal the blocks. It gives us this absolutely breathtaking glimpse of how these monuments must have originally gleamed in the desert sun. It's incredible. Okay, so the bent pyramid was saved, but let's be honest, it was a compromise, not a masterpiece. Sneferu, now decades into his reign, still wanted perfection. So he commissioned a third massive pyramid, just about a kilometer away. This time, his team was going to get it right,
They had to. And this table just lays out the whole learning process perfectly. You can see it right there. Medium steep angle led to collapse. Then, with the bent pyramid, that even steeper initial angle caused all sorts of structural problems, forcing them to switch to 43 degrees. So, for their third try, the red pyramid, they finally had the answer. They started with that proven, stable 43-degree angle from the very beginning. The failures had literally become the blueprint for success.
And the result was the red pyramid, the world's first successful, large-scale, true pyramid. Today we call it that because of its reddish limestone core, but originally, can you picture this? It would have been encased in gleaming white Tura limestone. Sadly, most of that was stripped away in the Middle Ages to build Cairo. But after all the failures, this was Sneferu's masterpiece. For centuries, this perfect structure just fueled all kinds of legends. You had stories passed down from the Middle Ages that spoke of a hidden sardab, a secret chamber hidden somewhere deep inside, a chamber that maybe held immense treasure, or maybe even the lost building secrets of the pharaohs. So, what does modern science have to say about that? Well, in recent years, the Scan Pyramids project used something called cosmic ray myography, which is kind of like a geological X-ray, to peer deep inside the Red Pyramid. And the verdict? Nope. No large hidden chambers. The legend of the Sardab has finally been put to rest, not by treasure hunters, but by particle physics. How cool is that? You know, Sneferu's legacy isn't just about one perfect pyramid. It's the entire process of how he got there. He was more than just a king. He was a true innovator who used this absolutely massive building program to establish Egypt as a superpower, pretty much through sheer force of will and stone. And during his long reign, Sneferu wasn't just building pyramids. I mean, the guy was busy. He sent military and trade expeditions all over the place, to Lebanon for that crucial cedar wood, to the Sinai for turquoise, and way south into Nubia, bringing back thousands of prisoners and huge herds of cattle. He was really projecting Egyptian power all across the known world. And here's the crazy part. Despite the immense resources all these projects must have eaten up, he wasn't remembered as some kind of tyrant. Actually, later Egyptians saw him as this ideal, benevolent king. They even gave him the nickname He of Beauty. His reign literally became the gold standard that future pharaohs tried to live up to. So when you add it all up, Sneferu quarried and moved more stone than any other pharaoh in history. Fact. Through decades of these high-stakes trials and even higher-stakes errors, he perfected the art of the true pyramid. He built the architectural, the logistical, and the economic foundation that made it possible for his son, Khufu, to come along and create the most famous monument in the world. Which really leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? We look at the Great Pyramid at Giza and see this symbol of singular, perfect achievement. But the truth is, it stands on a foundation of failure. It stands on the rubble of Meidum and on the corrected cracks of the bent pyramid. And it forces us to ask, could the Great Pyramid have ever been built without Sneferu's failures? Is failure just a necessary step on the road to building something that lasts for eternity?